Welcome back to GRAZY TV. So in South Korea recently, old cases has been resurfacing and it's been a trend to bring back past cases and unofficially revealing the identities of the suspects, as South Koreans are low-key tired of the defamation law and having these suspects live such a comfortable luxury life while the victims are still suffering. As many of you guys might know, it's technically still illegal in South Korea to reveal identities of victims and suspects without their consent or ruled by the high courts. So is it okay for the people, netizens, to take the matter into our own hands to bring justice to the victims and karma to the suspects, or just wait for the laws and justice system to change and catch up on them, which could take years? Would love to know your opinion. Remember, if you guys like these cases, a thumbs up, leaving a comment of your thoughts, and subscribing really helps to continue GRAZY TV channel. So the first case that has been the most hot topic right now is the Milyang case that happened back in 2004. And it's one of the worst cases when it comes to R/S assault cases. I think by now you guys should know the terms, and it's been 20 years, but the suspects are getting their karmas from the internet. Now, I did a full case on this. I will put a link because that video is demonetized because of the nature of the case. So I will not be going through the details in this video. I will just sum it up. So if you want to know the exact details of what happened, definitely go check that video out and come back because I'm going to give you guys the updates. So the Milyang case happened back in 2004, 20 years ago, to a middle school female student. And again, she was R/SA for 1 year from over 100 high school male students. They even threatened her family, such as her young cousins, and stole from them and took their belongings and things like that. And because she did come from a broken family, she was not living with her mother, and I believe her father was an alcoholic, and she was almost left to fend for herself, and she lived with, I believe, her relatives. So that's one of the reasons why it was hard for her to get help, and she felt helpless because there was nobody on her side. And the part that made her silent for over a year was that some of them actually filmed the incidents and interactions and threatened the victim that they were going to release this if she did go to the police or tell anybody. But after a year, she finally had enough and was able to tell her relatives, and her relatives and her mother took this to the police. There's actually a very famous movie based on this called Han Gongju. Again, in my full case study, I did a full dive into the movie. I've also seen the movie as well. And apparently the movie is almost exact to what happened in real life. In the end, only 44 students were arrested, and the rest of them did get away because there were just so many and you need to have evidence to submit this. And actually back in 2004 in South Korea, and this happened in many other countries as well, before the law changed, SA cases was considered a civil case. Now you can ask the police, hey, I want this person to be charged, but if they decide to mediate with the suspect or tell the police I don't want any charges filed, then they will be literally let go. Obviously, the law has changed, and today SA/R, these kind of cases, are criminal suits. So even if you say, hey, I want to mediate or I want to forgive the person, it will still be forwarded to prosecution and end up in the hands of the judges, and they can be sentenced. The family of victim A has pleaded with the police to not let information out to the press because this could be a crazy case. But, unfortunately, some of the police who got their hands on this case said, oh my God, this could be a media frenzy, and maybe they sold it or leak the information of who the victim was, exactly her name and her address. And this is how the suspect's parent knew who she was and knew where she lived. And apparently the parents of these 44 students went to her house, went to her parents' workplace, and even the school that she was in, and started to harass the family and victim A, saying, hey, mediate with my son. It got so bad that victim A had to transfer schools multiple times, and eventually there was no school that wanted to take her because, back then there was a stigma that it's gonna lead to bad rumors about the school, and also did not want harassment from other parents. Hey, it's actually your fault. You seduced my son. It was reported that victim A eventually dropped out of school, and she just kind of worked part-time from then on. Out of the 44 victims, can you believe that 10 of them did get forwarded to prosecution? and they did end up getting a sentencing, but because they were all technically under the age of 20, aka minors, they were pretty much freed and had like a slap in the hand. And none of the 44 suspects have this case in their records because I guess unless it's like a murder case, if you were charged as a minor, it is not left in the records as an adult. People even back then were so angry that how could some of the people who have done like the worst things ever to somebody not even receive proper punishment and just be let go with a slap in the wrist, and they can just go on to live a normal life when the victim is still suffering, and this is like a soul damage. So 20 years later, there has been actually trending channels that's been surfacing in the South Korean YouTube community where these people dedicate their YouTube channels to reveal the identities of the suspects and resurface old cases that we believe did not get the proper justice and the suspect did not get the proper punishment. Especially this YouTube channel, Darak Show, is trending right now because their channel is again dedicated to revealing the identities of suspects, as that is technically defamation in South Korea. And I think one of the best karma that I believe in South Korea, they believe is basically having your careers taken away, having your identities revealed, and having public shame. That whenever you go out, people see you and know who you are. So we can also protect ourselves from these scammers or these criminals. So not only Darak Show, but different YouTube channels has surfaced committing their service to revealing each identities of all the 44 suspects. So a couple of the identities from the worst, like the leaders of the culprits of this, group, their identities have been revealed, and this is one of the main suspects, again, said to be like the boss leader who orchestrated all of this. Right now, 20 years later, he is said to be working at a pretty popular restaurant that even came out on TV. People even found his social media, and he is a father now, and they're kind of like baffled at the posts that he's been posting about his daughter, like, I will take care of you from now on, you can use daddy's money, and people are like, wow, you did this to another woman's daughter. And people are just shocked, like, wow, you did something horrible to another family's daughter, and you're talking about your daughter like this. It's ironic. Like, does your wife and does your daughter, will they ever know what you did? And we're not talking about some petty theft charge. We're talking about one of the craziest cases that happened in South Korea. Another suspect's identity was revealed, and he was said to be working at a luxury car dealership. His social media also shows him, frequently flexing his multiple cars and things like that. And apparently after this news, the dealership says that they did let him go and fire him. Another suspect, which they're seen buying their daughter and wife some luxury clothing and going to nice restaurants. And again, people are commenting, well, does your family know that this is what you've done in your past? And day by day, these channels have been revealing the identities of new suspects. A smart thing I guess these channels hosts are doing is that they're not revealing identity of who they are, who's running this channel, and they're using AI voices to obviously conceal their identities for their own safety as well. So the question now is, do you think that taking justice and punishment into a matter of the netizens' hands is the right thing to do? I'm not saying we should do something illegal, but I'm also saying that just because a law says something, it doesn't mean that it's always also right. Sometimes netizens or people are fed up with the law protecting suspects. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Another case that has been receiving the spotlight back again is the Incheon Anime girls case. This case happened back in 2017, and NBC just released a new documentary called She Murdered. And in this documentary, they have released the handwritten letters by the criminals. And again, I've done a full dive into this case if you want to go look at the details, but to briefly sum up the case, it involved two high school girls suspects, and it was Kim, who was only 17 back then, and this is Park, who was only 19 years old. These two girls were said to have met online, Twitter to be specific, also a website where it's hard to describe, but apparently you make up these characters. It's like a drawing anime character, and you make up like a story around it and you interact with that character. So it's kind of like Wattpad for anime lovers and like storytelling lovers. So for example, Park, the 19-year-old, her character was this person that she made up, and this character didn't have like one of the arms, and she's always looking around to steal arms from other people. Now it sounds like a fantasy, literally anime story, because it is. These two girls in real life were said to have been kind of like very quiet, shy. Some even consider them a little bit loners. Kim, who was said to have very pale skin, she was very quiet. She seemed even a lot younger than her age, seemed very innocent. Who knew that she would be talking about such dark things online and having this whole different persona? So eventually the two girls would meet in real life and they started to plan something really sinister. And Park, it seemed like she had some kind of a fetish and like a fantasy about pretty hands. Eventually, the two would take their fantasy anime story to real life. So the day finally came, and the two, as they were texting back each other, they would call this the hunting day, that they were gonna go out hunting. And Kim, I guess it seemed like it was summer break or she didn't have to go to school, she would wear adult clothing, like her mom's like glasses and suit, and even had a suitcase with her and went out to a nearby playground. Kim was said to have tried to lure some of the kids in the playground and actually didn't work, but one of the girls that was in the playground, a 9-year-old victim, asking to borrow a cell phone because she wanted to call her mother. Kim replied, "Oh, I don't have battery right now, but my apartment is right there. Come up with me, you can use my phone." So of course, being a 9-year-old, she went up to the apartment with her. Next, in the CCTV footage, you could see Kim luring the girl and going up to their apartment. And unfortunately, this was the last footage of the victim alive. What happened inside of Kim's apartment is unfathomable. She ended up unaliving victim A. And it's just crazy how the 17-year-old girl, you can see how petite she even looks. She would eventually separate the parts of the victim inside of her bathroom and even nicely cleaned up. I mean, she would put multiple parts into different plastic bags and ended up throwing away at the rooftop of her apartment. The craziest detail is that while she was doing this, she was texting Park back and forth. And one of the things that she had to deliver to Park was the victim's, again, I told you Park had some kind of a obsession with. Now, of course, when the little girl didn't come home, that is when the parents called the police and filing for a missing child. And the police was able to track her pretty fast, almost that day. Of course, it took some time, but right after the incident of what Kim did to this girl, she ended up going to meet Park at Hongdae Station and was caught on CCTV handing her a bag, a brown paper bag, which had the girl's. Not only that, they later confessed that they went on to eat like street food and was like laughing and talking like regular friends. The case got into a big controversy because both of the victims were under the age of 20, so technically they were still teenagers, minors, which meant that in South Korean court, the maximum sentence that you can give a minor is only 20 years, even after cases like this. So Kim eventually received the sentence of 20 years and Park 13 for her participation, but actually not doing the actual crime itself, which is crazy because this sentencing was in 2018 and they were in court since 2017, meaning that Kim, who has done this, will only be 36 years old when she's released, and Park apparently only 31 years old. She'll be my age when she's released, which means that after such a historical, one of the craziest crime cases in South Korea, you are only going to be in your early 30s to mid 30s for Kim when you're released, meaning you can go out, get married, have babies, literally your whole entire life ahead of you after something like this. What? The part that's going viral right now is that the documentary released the handwritten letters by Kim, who's obviously in prison right now, and her letter states this. She says, quote, "I'm now gonna focus on what I can do with my life. I have no plans yet on what kind of life I will live after I'm released from prison, and I think it's too early, but I hope to continue my studies a little longer and use this as a stepping stone to help others. I hope that the various studies I am currently doing here will serve as a foundation for that. I hope that one day I will become a small light and shine a light on those who live a life in the shadows. I dream of becoming a person who can help those people be okay without making choices they might regret." And so one of the reasons why in South Korea, especially minors, get a very light sentence compared to maybe other countries is that they believe in rehabilitation, which I kind of do like the part in South Korea prison where they do focus on changing the person and providing them with, education, classes, and, teaching them why they did the wrong things that they did and allowing these people to have a chance to change, especially for minors, to become adults and become part of a society, and so that they can participate in a normal society. But for cases, extreme cases like this, do you think that suspects can be changed? Can their life be truly turned around? Is really the question, honestly. Of course, the law, I don't think applies to every single case. One size does not fit all. What if they do commit some other crazy crimes after they're released? What are you gonna do then? Their identities and faces have been released, but you know, when they're 30, their faces are gonna change from when they were 17. So I'm hoping that their faces, recent photos, will definitely be released when they are out of prison. Let me know what you guys have thought about today's cases. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit the like button and see you guys in my next video.